People often think that waitresses don't listen. They were just background noise, carrying plates, refilling glasses, smiling politely, and disappearing. But that's not true. We hear everything. Every whispered insult, every secret deal, every careless word spoken by people who think power makes them invisible. And that's how Nia Carter's life changed forever, on a night that started like any other. Nia had been on her feet since dawn. Her alarm rang at 5 a.m., just like it did every day. Not because she wanted to wake up early, but because she had no choice. 2 jobs, 2 shifts, and 3 people depending on her. She slipped quietly out of bed so she wouldn't wake her younger siblings. The small apartment was cold, the heater barely working, but she pulled on her uniform anyway, faded black pants, white shirt, and an apron that had seen better days. By 6 a.m., she was already serving coffee at a roadside diner. By 3 p.m., she rushed across town to her second job, an upscale restaurant where the food was expensive, the customers were powerful, and the tips unpredictable. This job paid more, and right now, Nia needed every dollar, because her little brother Malik needed new school books. Her sister Aisha needed asthma medication, and rent was due in 10 days. There was no safety net, only Nia. That evening, the restaurant buzzed with quiet luxury. Soft jazz played in the background. Crystal glasses clinked. Well-dressed men and women laughed softly, talking about deals, properties, and money, words that belonged to a world far away from Nia's reality. She moved smoothly between tables, her face calm, professional, unreadable. That's what she'd learned to do. Hide everything. No one here needed to know that her father had died when she was 17. No one needed to know that her stepmother had taken everything afterward. And no one needed to know how close she was to breaking. Or so she thought. Around 8:40 p.m., the host waved her over. Table 12, he whispered. VIP guests. Nia nodded and grabbed her notepad. Table 12 sat near the corner. A large round table, leather chairs, low lighting. 3 people were already seated. 2 men in tailored suits, and a woman. The moment Nia looked at her, something tightened in her chest. She didn't recognize the woman immediately. But her voice, that voice unlocked a memory Nia had buried deep. Sharp, confident, cold. Nia, the woman said casually, not looking up. Still working as a waitress? Nia froze. Slowly, she lifted her eyes. And there she was, Veronica Carter, her stepmother. The room seemed to tilt. For a second, Nia couldn't breathe. Veronica looked exactly the same. Elegant black dress, flawless makeup, diamond earrings. Not a single crack in her perfect image. The woman who had smiled at Nia's father during the funeral, then quietly erased Nia from his life. "Excuse me," Nia said softly, forcing professionalism into her voice. Veronica finally looked up and smiled. That smile wasn't warm. It never had been. "Well, I'll be," Veronica said. "It is you. I almost didn't recognize you without your father standing behind you." The 2 men at the table exchanged confused glances. "Do you know her?" one of them asked. Veronica laughed lightly. "Oh, unfortunately." Nia swallowed hard. Her hands trembled, but she didn't drop the notepad. Years of practice had taught her how to stand tall when everything inside her was shaking. "May I take your order?" Nia asked. Veronica leaned back in her chair. "You always were polite," she said. Even after everything. Nia said nothing, because if she spoke, the truth might come out too soon. The orders were placed. As Nia turned to leave, she heard Veronica speak again, louder this time. "Some people never rise above their place," she said, not bothering to lower her voice. "No matter what blood they come from." Nia felt it like a slap, but she kept walking. 10 minutes later, Nia returned with drinks. She placed each glass carefully, her movements steady. That's when Veronica leaned toward the man beside her and said something that changed everything. "Once the property transfer is complete, she won't have any legal claim left," Veronica said casually. "I made sure of that years ago." Nia's heart stopped. "Property? Claim?" The man nodded. "And the daughter?" Veronica smirked. "She doesn't even know what she lost." Nia's fingers tightened around the tray. Her father had owned land. a small but valuable piece outside the city. Land that he had promised would one day belong to his children. Land that disappeared after his death. And now, Veronica was talking about it openly. Nia stayed frozen, pretending to adjust the table setting. Her heart pounded. Her father hadn't abandoned her. She had been robbed. And the will? The other man asked. Veronica lowered her voice, but not enough. Oh, I handled that, she said smoothly. People believe whatever paperwork tells them to believe. Nia's breath caught. Handled it? The truth crashed in her all at once. The eviction notice. The locked office. The lawyer who couldn't find the documents. It wasn't bad luck. It was betrayal. Nia stepped back. Her chest burned. For years, she had blamed herself. Blamed poverty. Blamed the world. But the enemy had been sitting at her family table all along. Smiling. Waiting. As she walked back toward the kitchen, her legs felt weak. But her mind was suddenly very clear. Veronica thought Nia was invisible. Just a waitress. Just background noise. She had no idea that Nia Carter was listening, remembering, and planning. Because this time, Nia wasn't going to lose everything quietly. Nia Carter didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Veronica's voice again. People believe whatever paperwork tells them to believe. Those words echoed louder than any scream. For years, Nia had accepted a painful truth that life had simply dealt her a bad hand. A dead father, a cruel stepmother, a future built on exhaustion and sacrifice. But now she knew something worse. Her life hadn't fallen apart by accident. It had been taken. The next morning came too fast. Nia moved through the apartment quietly, careful not to wake Malik or Aisha. She made breakfast on autopilot. Toast, eggs, cheap juice. Her hands working while her mind replayed every word she'd overheard. Property transfer. Legal claim. Handled the will. Her father hadn't been careless. He'd been silenced. Nia sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the cracked surface where her father used to rest his coffee mug. Think, she whispered to herself. Think like he taught you. Her father, Samuel Carter, had never been a rich man, but he had been careful, organized. He kept records of everything, documents, receipts, handwritten notes, tucked into old folders. And suddenly, Nia remembered something. A locked metal box. It had been years since she'd thought about it. The box had belonged to her father and had been hidden in the storage unit he rented near their old house. After his death, Veronica had told Nia everything inside was junk and that the unit had been cleared. But what if it hadn't? What if Veronica had missed something? Hope, dangerous, fragile hope, flickered in Nia's chest. She grabbed her phone. The storage facility sat between a car wash and an abandoned strip mall. Nia hadn't been there in nearly 8 years. As she approached the front desk, her heart pounded. Hi, she said to the bored-looking clerk. I'm looking for records on a unit rented under Samuel Carter. The clerk frowned and typed. Last rental was closed years ago, he said. Nia nodded. I know. I need to confirm something. The clerk hesitated, then shrugged. Unit 314, he said. It was never fully emptied. Belongs went into auction storage, but personal documents were boxed. Nia's breath caught. They're still here. Technically, he said. You'll need proof you're next of kin. Nia slid her ID across the counter. My father is Samuel Carter. The clerk studied it, then nodded. Follow me. The storage room smelled like dust and old cardboard. The clerk pointed to a small box sealed with yellowing tape. Anything valuable was removed, he said. But papers? No one wants those. Nia knelt slowly. Her hands trembled as she opened the box. Inside were folders, deeds, tax receipts, legal correspondence, and then a sealed envelope. Her father's handwriting. For Nia. Tears blurred her vision. She opened it carefully. Inside was a copy of a property deed, land registered under Samuel Carter's name, and attached to it, a handwritten note. If you're reading this, something has gone wrong. The land belongs to you and the kids. Do not trust Veronica. Take this to a lawyer I trust. His name is Daniel Moore. Nia pressed her hand to her mouth. Her father had known. He had seen it coming, and he had tried to protect her. Back home, Nia hid the documents under her mattress. That night, she returned to work. And Veronica was there again. Same table, same confidence, different energy. Because this time, Nia wasn't just serving food. She was gathering evidence. As she refilled glasses, Nia listened. Veronica spoke freely, too freely. She bragged about the land's increased value, about selling it to developers, about cleaning up loose ends. The girl won't be a problem, Veronica said dismissively. She's busy surviving. Nia's jaw tightened. If only Veronica knew. Later that evening, one of the men stood and walked away. Veronica remained seated, scrolling through her phone. Nia approached with the check. Everything satisfactory? Nia asked politely. Veronica smiled without looking up. You always were efficient, she said. Shame ambition skipped you. Nia placed the check down. My father used to say ambition looks different on everyone, she said calmly. Veronica looked up sharply. For a brief second, her smile faltered. Then she laughed. Your father said many things. Yes, Nia replied softly. He did, and she walked away. That night, Nia made a call. Daniel Moore answered on the third ring. Law offices of Daniel Moore. My name is Nia Carter, she said. My father was Samuel Carter. There was silence, then a sharp intake of breath. I wonder when you'd call, he said. The next afternoon, Nia sat across from Daniel Moore in a quiet office filled with sunlight and old law books. He looked older than she remembered. Sadder. I tried to fight it, he said, but the will submitted was airtight, at least on paper. Forged? Nia asked. Daniel nodded slowly, and not sloppily. Whoever did it knew what they were doing. Nia slid the documents across the desk. Daniel's eyes widened. This, he said, changes everything. So I can stop her? Nia asked. Yes, he replied, but not alone. Nia leaned forward. Tell me what to do. Daniel studied her for a long moment. First, he said, we prove intent. And for that, we need her to keep talking. Nia's lips tightened into a calm, dangerous smile. She already is. That night, Nia stood in her apartment, watching Malik and Aisha sleep. For the first time in years, fear didn't rule her chest. Purpose did. Veronica thought the story was already written, but Nia Carter was about to flip the page. And this time, the truth would be served hot. Nia Carter had never been afraid of hard work. She was afraid of losing her siblings, losing the truth, losing the last pieces of her father that still existed in this world. And now, she was walking a dangerous line, pretending to be invisible while quietly pulling threads that could unravel everything. The plan was simple on the surface, dangerous underneath. Nia would stay exactly where Veronica expected her to be, a tired waitress, struggling to survive, too busy working double shifts to ask questions. Meanwhile, Daniel Moore would do what he did best. Dig. 3 days later, Daniel called. I need you to come by, he said, and bring whatever you can record conversations with. Nia swallowed. You think she'll say something useful? Daniel exhaled slowly. People who think they've already won usually talk too much. That night, the restaurant buzzed louder than usual. A private party had been booked. Expensive suits, low laughter, power in every gesture. And at the center of it all sat Veronica. She was dressed elegantly, pearl earrings, tailored blazer, the image of success built on stolen ground. Nia adjusted the small recording device clipped inside her apron. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. Veronica waved her over with 2 fingers. Bring another bottle, she said, and make it quick. Yes, ma'am, Nia replied calmly. As she poured wine, she listened. One man leaned in. So the property deal is finalized? Veronica smirked. Almost. Once the last paperwork clears, it's mine outright. And the kids? Another asked casually. Veronica shrugged. Collateral damage. The word hit Nia like a slap. Collateral. Damage. Her siblings had names. They had dreams. They had already lost one parent. Later, Veronica stood and walked toward the restroom. Nia followed, heart pounding. The hallway was empty. Veronica stopped suddenly and turned. You don't sneak very well, she said. Nia froze. Veronica stepped closer, eyes narrowing. You've been listening. Nia met her gaze evenly. I listen when people talk, she said. That's part of my job. Veronica studied her, really studied her, as if seeing her for the first time. "You look tired," Veronica said softly. "Still playing mother to those kids?" Nia didn't answer. Veronica smiled coldly. "You should be careful," she continued. "People who dig into things they don't understand tend to lose what little they have." Nia leaned in slightly. "And people who steal tend to forget who's watching." For a brief moment, silence stretched between them. Then Veronica laughed. "You sound just like your father," she said, and walked away. That night, Nia barely made it home before her hands began shaking. Fear crept in, real fear. What if Veronica suspected something? What if she moved faster? What if she retaliated? But then Nia looked at Malik and Aisha sitting on the floor, doing homework under a flickering light, and fear turned into resolve. The next week, Daniel uncovered something explosive. "Veronica didn't just forge the will," he said over the phone. "She bribed the notary." Nia's breath caught. "And the land?" she asked. "Transferred through a shell company," Daniel said, "designed to hide her fingerprints." "So how do we prove it?" Nia asked. Daniel paused. "We need her to confirm it herself." The opportunity came sooner than expected. Veronica returned to the restaurant alone one afternoon, distracted, irritated. Nia was assigned to her table. Veronica barely looked up from her phone. "Water," she snapped. Nia set the glass down. "You seem stressed," Nia said casually. Veronica scoffed. "Legal delays," she replied. "Paperwork nonsense." "Must be frustrating," Nia said, "especially when something belongs to you, but people don't want to let go." Veronica looked up slowly. "What are you implying?" Nia met her eyes. "My father believed in honesty," she said. "That's why he kept records." Veronica's face hardened. "Records burn," she said sharply. Nia tilted her head. "But memories don't." Silence. Veronica leaned forward. "You think you're clever," she whispered, "but you're still just a waitress." Nia smiled softly. "And you're still just someone who's about to be exposed." Veronica stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "You don't know what you're playing with," she hissed. Nia watched her walk out. The recording device was still running. That evening, Daniel listened to the audio. "This is good," he said. "Very good. But not enough," Nia replied. "No," Daniel agreed. "Not yet." 2 nights later, everything escalated. Nia returned home, late, to find her apartment door cracked open. Her heart stopped. She rushed inside. Drawers pulled out. Papers scattered. The mattress flipped. Someone had been searching. Malik and Aisha stood frozen in the corner. "Someone was here," Malik whispered. Nia pulled them into her arms. "It's okay," she said, though her voice shook. "I'm here." But she knew. Veronica was no longer just talking. She was hunting. Dana was furious. "She crossed the line," he said. "This is intimidation." "She knows," Nia replied quietly. "She knows I'm close." Daniel nodded grimly. "Then we stop playing defense," he said. "We end this." The trap was set. A charity gala. High-profile guests. Press present. Veronica would be there. And so would Daniel, officially representing concerned parties over disputed assets. And Nia? Nia would be working the event. Front and center. Visible. Unavoidable. As Nia stood in the mirror adjusting her uniform, she barely recognized herself. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a daughter fighting for her father's truth, a sister protecting her family, and a woman refusing to stay silent. She whispered to her reflection, "For Dad," and walked into the fire. The gala was nothing like the restaurant. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen stars. Men in tailored suits spoke in low, confident tones. Women in elegant dresses smiled carefully, as if every expression was calculated. Power lived here, and tonight, truth was walking straight into it. Nia moved through the ballroom with a silver tray balanced perfectly in her hands. She could feel eyes on her, some curious, some dismissive, one dangerous. Veronica stood near the center of the room, laughing softly beside 2 investors, her confidence restored. She looked untouchable, but Nia knew something Veronica didn't. Every step tonight had been planned. Daniel stood near the bar, speaking casually with a reporter from a major business channel. To anyone watching, he looked relaxed. But when his eyes met Nia's across the room, He gave a subtle nod. It was time. Veronica signaled Nia over. Champagne, she said without looking. Nia poured the glass smoothly. You throw beautiful events, Nia said politely. Veronica smiled thinly. They help people forget inconvenient details. Nia met her gaze. Or remember them. Veronica's smile didn't reach her eyes. You're still here, she said. I would have thought fear would have sent you running by now. Nia leaned in slightly, voice calm. I learned something from my father, she said. If you run, they win. Veronica's jaw tightened. You're playing a very stupid game, she whispered. Nia straightened. No, she replied. I'm ending one. Across the room, Daniel stepped forward. Ms. Hawthorne, he said loudly, his voice carrying just enough to draw attention. A moment of your time? Veronica turned, irritation flashing across her face. I'm busy, she replied coolly. Daniel smiled. This concerns the Carter estate. The room shifted. Whispers rippled outward. Carter. The name still carried weight. Veronica stiffened. There is no Carter estate, she snapped. It was legally dissolved. Was it? Daniel asked calmly. He turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I represent evidence that the late Samuel Carter's property was unlawfully transferred through falsified documents. Gasps followed. Veronica laughed sharply. This is absurd. Daniel nodded. So is forgery. He held up a tablet. Bank records, notary testimony, audio recordings. Veronica's eyes flicked briefly to Nia, and that's when it hit her. This wasn't coincidence. This was revenge. You think you can embarrass me like this? Veronica hissed. Daniel's smile vanished. No, he said. We're about to expose you. A reporter raised a microphone. Ms. Hawthorne, do you deny these allegations? Veronica lifted her chin. Completely, she said. This is a desperate stunt by a bitter girl who couldn't accept reality. Nia stepped forward. Every head turned. I accepted reality a long time ago, Nia said clearly. That my father trusted the wrong person. Veronica snapped. Get her out of here. Security hesitated. Daniel raised a hand. Before anyone moves, he said, perhaps Ms. Hawthorne would like to explain her own words. He tapped the screen. The recording played. Veronica's voice echoed through the ballroom. Once the paperwork clears, it's mine outright. The kids? Collateral damage. Silence crashed down. Faces changed. Eyes hardened. The reporter's mouth fell open. Veronica's composure shattered. That's edited, she shouted. Fake. Daniel switched files. Another recording played. Records burn. A third. People who dig lose what little they have. Veronica's hands trembled. You broke into my home, Veronica screamed at Nia. I listened, Nia replied calmly. Just like you taught me. Veronica lunged forward. Security finally stepped in. Get her away from me, Veronica shouted. But the damage was done. Phones were out, cameras rolling, truth spreading faster than fear ever could. The next morning, headlines exploded. Socialite accused of stealing estate from black family. Waitress exposes inheritance fraud at charity gala. Veronica's lawyers worked overtime, but evidence doesn't sleep. 2 days later, Nia received a call. They're freezing her assets, Daniel said. Full investigation underway. Nia sat down slowly. Her hands were shaking again, but this time not from fear, from relief. Is it over? She asked. Daniel paused. Not yet. That night, Nia returned home to find a letter slipped under her door. No name, just 3 words written in sharp ink. You should stop. Her stomach dropped. She looked at Malik and Aisha sleeping on the couch, and something inside her hardened. She folded the letter carefully and placed it in her bag. Then she picked up her phone. Daniel, she said. She's threatening me. Silence. Then quietly. Good, he said. Now we involve the police. Veronica was arrested the following morning. Fraud, intimidation, forgery. As officers led her past the cameras, she locked eyes with Nia. There was no hatred left, only disbelief. She had underestimated her. That evening, Nia took her siblings to the old property, the land her father had fought for. The house was empty, dusty, but standing. This was Dad's dream, Malik said softly. Nia nodded. And now, she replied, it's our future. But deep inside, Nia knew one thing. Victory didn't erase pain. It just made room for healing. And that healing was still ahead. Justice doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes quietly. Paperwork, courtrooms, long waits, and the slow, steady unraveling of lies. Veronica Hawthorne didn't look powerful in court. No designer dress, no polished smile, no audience to impress. She sat stiffly beside her attorney, eyes hollow, hands clenched in her lap. The woman who once controlled everything, now controlled nothing. Nia sat 3 rows back with Malik and Aisha beside her. Malik wore his only suit. Aisha held Nia's hand tightly, her feet barely touching the floor. They had never been inside a courtroom before. This wasn't a place for children, but this was their story. The judge listened. Carefully, methodically. Evidence was presented. Audio recordings, forged signatures, bank transfers hidden through shell accounts. Each document stripped another layer from Veronica's image. Each word confirmed what Nia had always known. Her father hadn't been careless. He had been betrayed. When the judge finally spoke, the room went silent. "Ms. Hawthorne," he said, "this court finds you guilty of fraud, coercion, and unlawful transfer of assets." Veronica closed her eyes. The Carter estate will be returned to its rightful heirs. Nia felt the breath leave her chest. Returned. Not given. Not awarded. Returned. Veronica stood abruptly. "This isn't over," she said sharply, turning toward Nia. "You think money fixes everything?" Nia met her gaze. "No," she replied quietly. "Truth does." The bailiff moved in. Veronica was escorted out. No applause. No cheers. Just the heavy sound of consequences finally catching up. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Nia, how does it feel to win?" She paused. "I didn't win," she said. "I survived." That night, Nia cooked dinner at home. No takeout. No celebration. Just rice, chicken, and vegetables. Malik helped stir the pot. Aisha set the table. Normal. That was the victory. A month later, they stood in front of the house. The house. The one Nia remembered from childhood visits. Faded memories of her father laughing, fixing a broken fence, talking about planting trees. It wasn't grand, but it was theirs. They moved in slowly, one room at a time. No rush. Healing doesn't like speed. Malik took the smaller bedroom. Aisha claimed the room with the window that faced the sunrise. Nia stood alone in the living room, touching the wall. "I did it," she whispered, "but I wish you were here to see it." The restaurant noticed her absence. Her manager called. "Are you quitting?" Nia smiled softly. "No," she said, "just changing shifts." 2 weeks later, she walked back into the same restaurant. Same apron. Same calm confidence. But this time, she wasn't invisible. She was choosing to be there. A familiar figure sat at the corner table. Daniel. He looked up. "You didn't have to come back," he said. "I wanted to," Nia replied. She set down a glass of water. "For everything," she added, "thank you." Daniel shook his head. "You already did the hardest part." Later that evening, a man entered the restaurant. Gray hair, worn jacket, eyes searching. Nia froze. She knew that face. She had seen it only in photographs. The man stopped at the counter. "You're Nia Carter," he said gently. "Yes." He swallowed. "I worked with your father. I didn't speak up when I should have." Silence hung between them. "I'm sorry," he said. Nia studied him, then nodded. "Me too," she replied. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing peace. That night, Nia tucked Aisha into bed. "Are we safe now?" Aisha asked. Nia brushed her hair back. "Yes," she said. "And if we ever aren't, we fight together." Aisha smiled sleepily. "Daddy would be proud." Nia swallowed. "I know." Months passed. The estate was stabilized. Trusts were created. Scholarships funded quietly, anonymously, for kids who worked jobs they shouldn't have to. Kids like Nia once was. One afternoon, Nia stood in the garden behind the house. Malik hammered a sign into the ground. "Carter Family Kitchen, meals with dignity." Aisha ran toward her, laughing. "People are coming." Nia smiled. "Good." The first guest was an elderly woman, then a single father, then a tired waitress from another restaurant. No questions asked. Just food. just kindness, just belonging. Late that evening, Nia sat alone on the porch. The stars were faint, but they were there. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who served food to strangers, invisible, exhausted, afraid. That girl didn't know she would stand here one day, but she never stopped believing she deserved more. Nia whispered into the quiet night. I carried us, and somewhere beyond the darkness, she felt it. Not closure, but peace.